everybody, welcome back. We're going to take a look at another aspect of photography, and we're going to focus on shutter speed for the next two assignments. So for this one, we're going to focus on how to freeze motion. The important concept to understand when you're talking about freezing motion is that we're looking at when you open the shutter, you expose the sensor to light, okay? And the longer you have the shutter open, the more chance you have for something that's reflecting the light to move across the frame, which then becomes a smear or a blur. So if you open the camera for 3 seconds, and in that 3 seconds somebody walks across the whole frame, what there'll be is just a streak of color going across the frame. However, if you take that same picture, but you only open it for a very small fraction of a second, they basically haven't moved across the frame while that was happening, and they become sharp. So generally when I'm trying to freeze motion, I'm shooting at about 1/500th of a second or faster, depending on the motion. If it's somebody walking, you can maybe go down as low as 1/160th of a second, 1/250th, somewhere around there. Let's take a look at some pictures that I shot to freeze motion. I was specifically trying to capture that kind of action. So right over here, and let me scoot over a little bit so that I have space for those to come up. Right over here. The first one is a wiener dog jumping into the ocean, and you see all the individual drops of water. It's actually a little bit out of focus. Like I think I focused in front. Like this is the sharpest part here. So he's moving that way. He's moving away from the camera, and this is an old picture. I couldn't keep up with it. So that's 1/1000th of a second at f4.8. ISO 250. So even though there is blur, the blur is focus blur. It's just because I screwed up the picture. This is also from my New Zealand trip. This was all back in January 2007 or December 2006. I don't know, something around that. Here's a sea lion on the beach, 1/800th of a second, f6.3, ISO 200. And he was just lying there like a lazy lump. And every once in a while, he would flip the sand up with that flipper just to cover himself in sand. So I thought that was kind of cool. I sat there and waited for him to do that and then fired off a shot. And probably a fairly long lens because apparently sea lions can run like 35 miles an hour on a beach, and they chase down dogs sometimes. At least that's what they told me. This is 1/1000th of a second at f5.6. It's also a composite. So the original shot was just the wiener dog chasing the tennis ball. And then a couple of years later, I was like, hey, it'll be funny if I try to make my son riding him. So I put him on one of those big bouncy balls with the handles, you know, boom, 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 and said, pretend like you're riding him. We tried to get the light right, and then I just cut the two together. But again, it's pretty sharp. There's a little bit of blur, but you can see like the individual grains of sand getting kicked up. And that's at 1/1000th of a second. I probably could have increased my ISO and then doubled my shutter speed and gotten even less motion blur there. But the main thing is the dog is pretty sharp, and he's running like the wind. He was a fast wiener, and that was in his prime. Wiener dogs chasing each other on the beach. ISO 500, f5.6. 1/500th of a second. ISO 800 at f5.6. This is a different kind of day. It was cloudier, so the light is very different. But you can see one of the things about freezing motion is they only have 1 foot on the ground each, and hers is not even really supporting any weight. So that's that kind of motion, like you can't do that without freezing the motion. 1/250th of a second. Because he's moving straight at the camera, it actually doesn't, to the camera, it doesn't register as much motion, so I was able to freeze that with a fairly slow shutter speed. Also, he's crouching like he's just about to start running, so he hasn't hit full speed yet. 1/6000th of a second here. This one was really trying to freeze those water droplets. And if you look, when I zoom in, they are definitely individual droplets with no motion blur on them. So 1/6000th of a second did that job. And that was the polar bear just coming up and like doing that thing. And these seals in Maine are, it almost looks like they're getting the splash from the polar bear. But yeah, they're kind of doing that thing to get away from the rocks. 1/1600th of a second. So basically, with these kinds of action shots, what I do is I set the shutter speed as fast as I think I need to make it to freeze the action. And then I just probably open the aperture up as wide as it'll go and then give me the lowest ISO I can to get the shutter, to get the image quality that I need. So I set the shutter speed, and then I figure out the other two just to make the exposure work. 1/1000th of a second, following this egret in flight. 1/1000th of again. When I'm shooting birds, generally I start at about 1/1000th of a second, and I go up from there. You can see there's actually some blur on where the bird's wings were flapping, because the flapping goes a lot faster than anything else. Great big birds you don't need as fast because they move more slowly. Little teeny birds, you got to go crazy with your shutter speed. So this heron is 1/750th of a second. I probably could have slowed that down if I wanted to, but I didn't need to. I was at ISO 280, which is very low and allows good quality color and stuff. And there he is again at 1/1000th. This time he's flapping a little harder, so there's some more blur on his wings there. And then a seagull at 1/500th of a second flying over the ocean. That's all there is to it. If you notice, there's almost always something in the air in all of these pictures. And I do that because it tends to indicate that it's moving really fast. If you take a picture of a car on a road and everything is sharp and nothing is blurred out in any kind of motion, how are you supposed to tell the car is actually moving? It could have been parked there. So, whereas if you took a picture of a car jumping off a ramp, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's definitely frozen. So when you're shooting your own, find ways to make it obvious that you've frozen some kind of motion. You have to do a picture that makes it look like you've frozen something. Because if I go like this, maybe I'm running, maybe I'm not. So we're going to try and do things that are airborne. So for that, I need a volunteer. So Marcus, come over here. He's going to help me out. He's going to jump, and I'm going to take a picture of him jumping. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to prioritize a very fast shutter speed, which means a pretty wide open aperture, and probably a higher ISO. And we'll just see. Generally, when I'm trying to freeze motion, I go for 1/500th of a second or better. So we're going to start around there, and we'll see what we've got. All right, so that's a pretty good spot there, Moo.
Okay.
All right, give me a second to get my stuff set up.
Okay.
First, I'm going to record this camera. There we go. And I'm going to back up just a little bit because I'm a little bit too close to you. So right now I'm at f16 1/20th of a second. Let's drop that right down. Now, at ISO 400, I'm at 1/4000th of a second, which is as fast as this camera goes. So let's turn that ISO down because we really don't need that much. ISO 100. Looking at my histogram. He's in the shadow, so I'm going to brighten that up a little bit. And since he's just going to jump straight up, I am just going to lock my focus once, and then not worry about focusing again. Okay, so Marcus, on the count of 3, you're just going to jump straight up in the air, okay? And maybe wave your arms or something. 1, 2, 3. And then I just fired off 3 shots. And let's see if any of those came out. We're going to take a quick look. That one's too late. That one, his arms are out, but you can't really tell he's up. That one's kind of good. Okay, now we're going to try something else. All right? So let's stick around for a second. So that first shot, that's going to be, one of those will count as our first shot of our 4, okay? We're going to try a different thing. What I want you to do is take your hat off and throw it right at me, okay? And wait. Whenever you're ready. Let's see what I got there.
That wasn't very accurate.
Well, I'm actually kind of glad I didn't really want to get hit. I fired too late. Let's try that again. Go, run and get it. So with action, really, the timing is huge. Like if you're a little bit too late, it doesn't read. So the hat was in the shot, but it was so far out of the shot. I mean, so far in the corner that you can't really see it. All right, so let's try that again. Focus that. All right, whenever you're ready. Let's see. Did that come out? That's actually kind of cool. So that one, it's like hovering over your hand. We're gonna go and try something else. Maybe we'll try something with the dog. No, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do one more running shot. So now what I want you to do is go over this way. So I'm gonna move my focal point over to the side of the frame. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep that on him the whole time that he's running and hold down the focus button. so that my focus tracks him as he moves. All right. And when you're ready, and I'm gonna get down on his level. Sorry. All right, let's give it a run. All right, let's try that again. Go back. I don't think I got any of those because I got a fairly small focus point, so keeping it on you. Well, actually, that one's not too bad. We are back. We're gonna try something a little different. I have a swing behind me, and I'm gonna get my assistant Ella to do some swinging, and we'll capture her swinging. And I'm gonna use my Nikon Z6 this time because it works better with the recorder for capturing fast action stuff. So we're gonna set up a shot like that, and we'll see what we can get. All right, let's see how it goes. Okay, so as you can see, I've got Ella here swinging on the swing, and I want to set my shutter speed fast enough that I can catch that and not have any blur. So we're going to try a couple of different angles on the swinging. Yeah, keep swinging. Swing away, kiddo. So looking at that, if I got my histogram popped up there, I'm getting just a little bit of, most of my shadows are okay. I'm going to set my white balance to cloudy, which is the way I like it. I'm going to get down low. I'm going to track.
And try not to get the feet in the way.
Right. And I'm just keeping my...
Taking pictures?
Yeah. I'm taking pictures of, taking videos of taking the pictures. So if you look at that, most of those came out pretty well. And you can kind of tell that there's, well, no, you got to keep swinging.
When you're done, you can show me.
I will show you when we're done. Yeah, keep swinging. Ella, do you want to help us do one more shot? I'm thinking something with the hose. We'll be spraying some water.
Are you spraying me?
No, you'll have the hose and you'll spray with it, okay? Okay, let's try it. All right, here we are with Ella and a hose, and we're gonna try and freeze the drops of water spraying out of the hose. For that, I need a very fast shutter speed. So let's try 1/6000th of a second and see what that does. All right, you ready? Don't spray me. Okay, go. Okay, so that's some fun with water. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with water. You just try to droplet into a puddle or a pool or a bucket, a bowl. That's the word I'm looking for. Whatever you want to do, the different shutter speed has a huge effect on how your water is going to look every time. All right, and then you're picking your top 4. And throwing those into your Google slideshow, just like the previous 2 exercises. Have fun.